So, quick reminder, if you want to speak during the public comment, you need to make sure you sign in, just so we're all above board.
For the record, I am not here to speak or ask for anything. I was here, my dancing and
Yeah, we were all thinking, what
Good to have
No,
I'm
kidding. I am totally good. We love it when you come. It has to be late.
No, you're right.
Noah.
Okay.
Very good. Very good. Good to have you. We're ready.
Bergstrom, Merritt.
Yep.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Van Sickle.
Yes. Approval of agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Merritt.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Van Sickle.
Yes. Presentations, celebrations, and reports. We'll start with YSS Kids Club.
Absolutely. So we have a wraparound care, and we partner with YSS, and they also do our summer program. So they're just here to give a highlight of their program to the board.
And we'll talk about Lights On. It's my second time doing it, so I need my notes. Sorry. So hi, my name is Ethan Knox. I think I met some of you last year when I was doing this. Kelly actually has one of her kids at Kids Club, so I see her every week. I'm representing the Ogden Kids Club after school program. We are based out of the Ogden Elementary. We've been providing care since I think 2019. I can't remember for sure, but right before COVID, I think, when we were still in the old building. The mission for Kids Club program is to provide a safe, nurturing, stimulating environment where kids and children can learn and grow. Kids Club provides an opportunity for families to have their children in a safe environment where they are learning new concepts, exploring ideas, building relationships with peers, and engaging in a variety of physical activities. So the reason I'm here is each October we participate in Lights On After School. It's a initiative nationwide that celebrates after school programs and their importance to children, families, and communities. I passed out folders to all the board members. In that folder, it just kind of goes over kind of showcasing the Lights On open house, kind of some talking points, some facts about Lights On, and like how, having the program for kids for like, I think there's a report in there that says that a lot of kids can get into kind of those trouble areas from the end of school to 6 o'clock, and that's actually when our program goes. I put some extra invites in the back. Our Lights On program, it will be Thursday the 24th this year. And we do a little program from 5:30 to 7. We're going to do bingo where prizes will be handed out, and food. We're doing a mac and cheese bar this time. And then, we'll do some games and stuff. It's a costume party theme. So you see the invites, they have little people, and all the kids have to design them. So, okay. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to sleep.
Thanks, Ethan.
Thank you, guys.
Elementary art presentation.
So Elijah Reed's here tonight. She is probably she is a familiar face, but new in her role as K-5 Elementary, and she's been doing some great things. Part of our highlights and celebrations, we always ask our principals to bring somebody and some programming so the board can hear a little bit more about the great things that are going on. And we asked Elijah to come.
All right, so I'm Elijah. I'm the elementary art teacher, and I'm super excited to talk to you about what I've been doing with the kids. So I created a 5-week-long art exhibit for the kids, and each week is a different grade level. So what we did was I am trying to build community partnerships. So I put this exhibit out, so it's a public art exhibit, and so parents, community members can all come in and see everything that the kids have been working on in art class. And I even have all the things that they learned throughout the project that's posted. Posted for the parents to see what they've been kind of working on. It's also nice that some of the kids will talk about the stuff that they learned without even reading what was on the wall for the exhibit. So that's also really cool because they're retaining that information, and I love to see it. The art shows have received a lot of positive feedback, so I'm really, really happy that it's going well. A lot of families have been showing up. There is an art show tomorrow, so everyone here is welcome to come and see what they've been doing. But yeah, I have activities for the parents and kids to do together while they're at the art show, and I'm very intentional about those activities because they reflect on what the kids learned in class for that project. So it's a really cool thing. There's always snacks and refreshments, so you guys are all welcome to come, and the more people, the better. So thank you so much. It's been a real fun experience. It's new, so
And
there's
where do you lay out your display? In the hallway or in the art room?
So it's public. So it's actually at All Good Things Apparel. That's a store local here. Yeah, so that we can get that public aspect of art making. The kids can see what public art is with their own artwork instead of going to a museum and stuff like that, which is a really cool experience for them.
So what time is your art show?
It is from 4 to 6
At All Good Things.
at All Good Things Apparel. Yep.
Great.
And then the artwork will be displayed for the whole week. Tomorrow's just our opening night for the 3rd grade.
Any other questions?
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
I like your enthusiasm.
Thanks. I've been really excited. Yeah, it's awesome. Okay. I'm going to speak out also.
Yeah. Have a great night. Thank you.
Melissa, you're up.
Yeah, Melissa's worked hard on putting together a fiscal year financial report, and honestly, I'm gonna hand it off to her. She has prepared a packet for you guys to kind of go over, but the packet really just goes over a lot of financial 101 as well as kind of our current condition for 24-25, and she's done a lot of work on this.
So I am equally as excited about numbers, but it's probably not as exciting for everybody else. So a little history first about school funding and the unspent authorized budget, because that's the most important piece that we look at. So prior to 1972, it was just a free-for-all. Whatever you could levy for property taxes in your community is what you could receive and spend for your school. The Iowa legislature stepped in 1972 because they realized that that was inequitable for districts that didn't have high property valuations. And so they came in with the school funding formula. And what that does is it sets a maximum amount that you can spend per student. So this last year it was the 7826, and that money then comes from a mixture of state money and local property taxes. So our local property taxes still contribute a piece of it, but it's all formula driven. And what happens there within that mix is districts that have some higher property valuations or are considered property rich, their property tax piece is actually a little more of that 7826 than if you're more property poor or have lower valuations. So this graph here shows our district is on the left, and so of the 7826 per pupil that we are given to spend, 3,700 of that comes from our property taxes and 32 from the state, where the state average is only $2,400 comes from your local property taxes. So that signifies that we do have some higher property valuations within our district boundaries. From this creates our maximum spending authority. So we get that much per student, and then whatever we don't spend is called our unspent authorized budget. And that's what we're watching. That's what we want to make sure doesn't go negative. That's what we also want to make sure doesn't go too high. We want to make sure we are spending adequately for our students here. So we had some dark years. And fiscal 17 was the first time that we saw a positive unspent authorized budget in both our unrestricted and our restricted categorical funds. So this is the historical graph there. The red is our total, and of that, the green is what the categoricals are. So we utilized some different pieces. We strategically used some early retirement stipends sprinkled in there to lower our expenditures. We've utilized the flexibility fund where you can move some of that additional categorical money out of the categorical and use it for any general fund purpose. So our UAB, or our unspent authorized budget, was actually estimated to go down this year. We had estimated that decreasing by $300,000, and we saw it going to increase by $300,000. I'll go into that why. I really did a deep dive on the why later on when we talk about all of the different funds. But our unspent balance did increase again this year, so we are at 29.5%. Our board goal is between 15 and 20, so we are high. But we have some ideas and some fixes.
Well, that's a good you turn that so that
Yeah.
they can see that. We have that.
There you go. That's good. It's closer to my seat too. Just a little bit, I guess, before I move on to the enrollment stuff. We do have some information. The board has some information on our categoricals. We did have a couple of categorical balances that grew. The largest one was our teacher leadership. That model we had reflected with 2 instructional coach type positions, and we went another year without a second one last year. So Joshua did a lot of work, and the administrative team did a lot of work to change that model around. So our expenditures moving forward match our revenues. We'll probably recommend flexing some of that extra money out later this fall.
Can we ask questions as we go?
Yeah, go for it.
Off the top of your head, do you remember when you could start flexing funds?
2018, 19, 18.
Okay.
I have it somewhere. 2019.
Okay.
And not all of your categoricals. There are certain ones that you can flex and some you cannot.
And they have added to that list. So originally it was homeschool and PD were the only ones that we had. They've added TLC, and I believe they've added preschool as well, but we don't ever flex anything out of our preschool.
So this blue line,
that's our percentage. Yep.
So that is what ratio to what?
So that is the red number divided by our total maximum authority.
Okay.
So of our maximum authority, we had 29% that we had left. One of the biggest drivers of our unspent balance is our enrollment, because that per pupil funding is, a per pupil amount times the amount of students you have. So certified versus served enrollment, we talk about the difference in those. A lot of other districts will talk about their certified enrollment. A very important number, that just means the number of resident students you have. Served enrollment is everybody that comes to school here. So that includes our open enrolled in kids. When we talk a lot about our budgeting and our money or our staffing levels, we are talking about that in terms of our served students, because we net in so many students. On count day last October, our certified enrollment was 590, so our resident kids were 590, and we were serving 724 students here. So more relevant for us to talk about those served students, because that's the butts in the seats. We do have a little bit of open enrolled out, so that takes about $300,000 that we send to our neighboring districts for kids to go for the 39.7 children to go other places. But open enrolled in is where we see a lot of additional revenue. Over almost $1.3 million of our general fund revenue comes from tuition from our neighboring districts for those open enrolled in students. which is much higher than the state median. So solvency is another measure of our financial health, and this is just showing our cash flow capabilities. We take our ending fund balance and divide it by our revenues. So in school business, it's used to determine whether a district can levy for more cash. We have not been able to levy for cash since I've been here because we have such a high solvency ratio. So levying for cash increases your cash balances, but it doesn't increase your spending authority. So before I came here, there was a cash reserve levy. We have this cash that's sitting in the bank that we can't do anything with because we don't have the authority to spend it. It generates revenue for us with this interest income, but the actual bulk of that cash just sits there for a rainy day. So our solvency ratio is very, very high. This year, at the end of fiscal 24, it's at 45%. So we have a lot of cash on hand. And the great thing about this is that we don't have to worry about
It's not true.
Stop the show, record when people out here. We don't have to worry about the timing of our revenues to make sure our bills get paid on time. We have the cash in our accounts to pay those bills. We don't have to wait for the large property tax deposits right now. The only way really to decrease this is to have a very expensive special ed student that spends a lot of our cash, or to decrease our unspent balance. So there's not like one way to decrease one without the other. Speaking of special education, the special education deficit measures the amount of money we spend on special education over the expenditures over the revenue. So each special education student generates a supplemental weighting that creates a higher revenue per pupil than regular education students. So if the general population is counted as one student, a level 1 special education student counts as 1.72. Level 2 students are 2.21 students, and level 3 are 3.71. We take advantage of 2 other revenue streams to help cover special education costs because all needs must be met for those students. We receive approximately $27,000 from the AEA. It's called Part B money. And we received about $45,000 this year in Medicaid revenue. So the special ed deficit is only a hindrance to cash balances. We are allowed additional spending authority, which you'll see later in our packet. We're approving that request for additional authority for those deficits. So you'll see fiscal 23, our special education deficit was $212,000. So we had $212,000 more in expenditures than what we brought in for revenue for those students. This year it was $1,533. We had 2 big things impact that. We had a reduction in staff, and we had 2 fewer very high cost tuition out students. So those were students with IEPs being served at other districts. 2 of them graduated, and those were very high costs for us. The expenditure to publish budget report. This is a graph that the board sees every month. It monitors our expenses compared to our published budget, and it's the most important financial role of the board throughout the school year. Each spring, we publish our certified budget and set our tax rate for the next year. One of those requirements is to report to the constituents how much we intend to spend over all of our funds for each function type. So we report all instructional expenses for all funds together, all support services, non-instruction, and then other expenditures, which would be facilities, acquisitions, construction, debt, and any AEA flow-through dollars. Those are all combined in that other category. Our instructional category includes teachers, associates, sponsors, coach salaries and benefits, classroom supplies, athletic supplies, early retirement payouts, and student computers. Support services are administrative costs, custodial, transportation, utilities, maintenance supplies, bus parts, new school buses, copier rentals, lawn care, non-instructional computers, and non-instructional software, so like my accounting software. The non-instructional costs are our student business activities, so our greenhouse and our student restaurant, and the nutrition costs, or nutrition fund. Facilities, acquisitions, and construction is any construction costs or major building repairs. And debt is any cost related to the repayment of bonds. AEAs, as of fiscal 24, are not allowed to levy taxes on their own, but require funding to operate and assist districts. Therefore, each district serves as a flow-through for AEA funding. These funds are technically ours, but only on our books. We do not physically receive the money and pay the AEA. They are directed 100% through in fiscal 24. That will change. Fiscal 25, all of the special education funding will still flow through, but 40%.
We hang on to 60%.
40% of the media and education services flows through. We hold on to 60%, which is not really that much. I think it's for us, it's like $40,000 that we end up retaining.
It's around 25,000 per category, around that range.
So, so for these, if we anticipate that we're going to exceed what we anticipated spending, we have to let the public know and amend our budget. It doesn't increase taxes. It's just an update really of, hey, we thought this was where we were going to be with expenditures. Here's why things changed, and here's where we're actually going to end the year for these categories and expenditures. All right, the deep dive, the fun stuff. So these are our beginning fund balances, year-to-date revenues, year-to-date expenditures, and then where each fund ended the year. So the general fund saw an increase in fund balance of almost $315,000, despite the initial budget predictions indicating we should have seen a fund balance decrease of about the same amount. This year, revenues were higher than budgeted and expenditures were lower than budgeted. For revenues, the major culprits included special education tuition revenue, interest income, and property taxes. Non-resident special education students generated over $100,000 more in tuition and billable services than we had initially budgeted. Our interest income exceeded budget by $15,000, and property tax receipts exceeded anticipated estimates by almost $45,000. On the other side, we underspent our expenditures in certified staff salaries, associate wages, transportation wages, and special education tuition outbills, and supplies and equipment budgets. So for the certified staff variance, the elementary bore the brunt of most of them. They went the entire year without their second Title I teacher, relying on a long-term substitute to fill that role at a much lower cost than a full-time teacher. And the elementary went 3/4 of the year without their own building counselor. Summer school salary needs were less than budgeted because the summer school model was adjusted following the exhaustion of all of our ESSER funding. Associate and transportation wages are an estimate each year, and they vary usually depending on the weather. When school and activities are canceled, staffing needs change, or we had some open positions for longer than normal periods of time. Our special education tuition out expenditure, like I said, was reduced significantly this year due to the graduation of 2 high-cost paying students. And all 3 buildings underspent their building budgets last year. That budget is just money for them that's set aside for their daily classroom needs, and those needs vary classroom to classroom and year to year. Additionally, one thing that we do try to watch is what percentage of our general fund expenditures went towards salaries and benefits. The best practice in schools is for 80% of your general fund expenditures to be paid to your people, and this year we spent 81% on our people. So we are spot on there. Okay, the management fund. So we did see a small increase in our fund balance in the management fund. This pays for our property and liability insurance premiums, insurance claim deductibles, early retirement packages, unemployment claims, which were not applicable this year, natural gas insurance, and beginning in May, we purchased the equipment break fix insurance. You might notice our fund balance is still entirely too high. And there's a little bit of history behind that to understand why we got there and how hard it actually is to decrease that fund balance. So during our bad financial years, property tax rates were high and volatile. In fiscal 16, when the property tax rate hit 1410, the board made a commitment to our constituents to maintain a steady overall tax rate. And the board has that picture of the graph. You'll see it flattens out there after 2016. The issue with that commitment is that there are actually very few pieces of the property tax formula the district has control over to maintain that steady tax rate. So for a number of years, we levied management fund dollars in relation to the effect of the overall tax rate, not necessarily what we were needing. So we took a fund with a high balance and we made it even higher. In the most recent past, we've shifted our mindset and we're only levying based on what we anticipate our needs to be. And we've made a few attempts at decreasing that balance. We offered early retirement packages without levying additional dollars. We added the natural gas insurance and we moving the cost of our natural gas out of the general fund and into management. And with the break fix insurance in the spring, we attempted to mindfully begin to decrease the fund balance. We were successful in fiscal 23. We were not successful last year, so we'll continue to adjust accordingly to try to bring that fund balance down. PEPL also saw an increase in fund balance, and we have those budgeted out. Those revenues and expenditures are budgeted out through 2034. So as we focused on our safety improvements last year, that shifted a lot of what we would have normally spent on building improvements was shifted to that Homeland Security grant. So we saw fewer expenditures coming out of PEPL. That money just carries forward to future years. PEARL funds are used to maintain our public education recreation areas, and we use this primarily for snow removal, lawn care, and playgrounds. And we utilized carryover funds from fiscal 23 to update landscaping at the elementary and to pay for a large portion of the new rubber mulch. The goal is to carry forward as little as possible because the PEARL levy is no longer a levy that districts can add. We were grandfathered in to get to keep that levy. So my goal is to make sure we spend all of it to prove to the legislature that we do really need it, because that was a lot of the lobbying that we put in a couple of years ago to keep that, was that it was very necessary to our daily operations. And if you carry forward large balances, that shows them that it's not. So we try to spend that down to a $0. What do we end at? $2,000 is where we ended. So as low as we can possibly go. The debt service fund, all of our bond payments flow through there. So even our sales tax bonds get transferred out of sales tax and into debt service before we can pay them. Last year, we utilized an additional $270,000 in pre-levy. So we have that $2.70 property tax limit for our debt service. But as our debt gets paid off, what our need is lower. So we're able to fill that gap and levy at that $2.70 so that we can start paying our bonds off earlier and save the district and our constituents that interest costs on those. Our bonds aren't callable until 2026, so our debt service fund balance is growing while those funds sit in our escrow account. The activity fund saw a large increase in both the athletic and non-athletic accounts. The athletic revenues were spot on to our budgeted amounts, and expenditures came in $25,000 less than budgeted. Purchasing was tightened up significantly from fiscal 23. We had overspent athletics by about $10,000, and so they really tightened those up. Non-athletic accounts revenues exceeded expenditures by $17,000, and most of that was from a large fundraising campaign by the robotics club. The sales tax fund remained relatively steady. Revenues exceeded estimated amounts, and expenditures came in just a little under budget for our roof repairs and our building repairs. Those are funds that we set aside each year for our just in case. And the roof repair portion was much smaller, and we didn't have as many big building repairs needed. The nutrition fund. It's a very interesting fund. According to the state accounting rules, it must run as a self-sustaining business. So revenues generated from meal sales must cover the cost of our food, personnel, and equipment repairs. However, the Department of Ed also restricts that a district should have no more than 3 months worth of operating expenditures in cash. So our monthly expenses range from $40,000 to $60,000, meaning we should have at most $180,000 cash in the bank. As of June 30th, we had $482,500 in the bank. So how do we get here? From the beginning of the COVID shutdown in the spring of 2020 through the 21-22 school year, all meals were fully federally funded, and the federal meal reimbursement rate is higher than what our paid meals cost. And our participation was up as well because the meals were free to students. This funding more than covered our operating expenditures, and we built up a large bank of funds. In fiscal 23, we returned to the paid meal structure. Because of the 2 years of large fund balance increases, we kept meal prices at our pre-pandemic rates, and we increased staff hours and offered insurance benefits to all of our cooks. Fiscal 23 and 24 both saw large increases in our benefits and purchased food expenditures. These increases, coupled with lower meal revenue, have started the decline of the nutrition fund balance. So is this decrease necessary? Yes. Is it sustainable long term? No. Should we panic? Not yet. We've got a few years before we have to panic about nutrition. Construction projects, that was where our construction bonds went. We spent those out fully last year, and so this fund goes dormant until a time in which we would ever have revenue from a new general obligation bond. The scholarship funds are passed through only for outside scholarships awarded to Ogden students when the awarding group does not wish to disperse the funds directly to the recipients. So those should always be at a zero balance because the money comes in and then we send it out on their behalf. The student enterprises, this is where we account for our student businesses, so the greenhouse and the student restaurant. And our high school special education suite does have a crafts and decor business, so it's a very small portion of that. Our custodial fund, this is a new one for us this year. It's used to account for funds that are maintained by our district on behalf of an outside entity. So the district FCCLA group had a small balance of funds housed previously at ACGC. With the retirement of one of their advisors, the district was looking for a new school to house their funds. So I volunteered Ogden. It's very little work. We just have to record it. This is not our money. We're just holding on to it for them. So in conclusion, this is long-winded. The Ogden Community School District remains very stable financially. The administrators and I will continue to work diligently and intentionally to provide the best possible educational experiences, resources, and spaces for our students and staff. And have the funding to do so. Any questions as I close through that? Because I know you guys aren't as excited about it as I am.
Oh, we are.
Good.
It's really good info, so I like to put that.
That's great.
As you were talking, I was kind of curious on the busing going across the border to pick up how that piece is going, or if it's too early.
I think it's too early to
It
tell
hasn't yet.
how it's impacting us. I think once we get a better handle of that, I can certainly give you an update, as I know that you guys made the decision to have a fee structure as a pilot for this year. And based off the information that we gathered, then you guys could pivot accordingly from that.
Yeah,
We just don't have that in
whenever it makes sense. It's
Yep.
not like it's right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I was talking with a family that is getting this benefit, and they said already they're saving about $100 a month. So,
That's great.
So we end up. So
$50 $50 for the year, right?
for the year.
there you go.
That's great.
Yeah, they're excited.
Yeah, for sure.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Off the top of your head,
Yep.
if you know it, what is our current cash position? How much cash?
How much cash do we have? That is in your consent agenda.
Oh,
As
maybe
of
I should read that.
September 30th, we have total. We have $7,527. $7,527,000.
I was going to
Up
say,
here.
which?
So let me read this. So there's 470,000 at UMB, 3 million at IceJet, and 4 million in that Vision Bank.
On that food account, how far out do you see that you're solvent as the expenses are as of today? 5 years? 10 years?
3 years.
3 years.
We did have some staff changes. I anticipate our benefit expenditures to be lower this year. We had a couple of people leave that took some benefits and replaced by people who did not enroll in benefits. So that'll be a cost savings for us because our health insurance is fairly expensive.
I would think the food cost piece has probably gone up quite a bit in the last year.
It has.
Or two,
It's been wild to try to budget for.
not that they're going to go down ever, but I would think that would level off.
I hope so because it's miserable to try to budget for it.
I think our goal with that would be is we don't want the floor to drop and spend all of that at just one point. So as we see that it's declining, which we want, we may have to fluctuate our revenue, which is how much are we charging students, and gradual, just to kind of figure out what that right balance is so we can hopefully level that out.
Any other questions?
Thank you. That's wonderful.
Very nice. No, that's good. Principal reports. Who would like to go first?
Amy said I can go first. I don't think either one of us want to follow that. That's a hard act to follow. So I'll go for middle school, high school. I'm still learning every day. We're finally figuring it. We're a month and a half into the school, so we're figuring out how our current situation operates. It's going really well. I'm thankful for the team that I have. They have been both patient but also willing to try new things. It seems like it's been a long time since we had our board meeting. A lot of things have happened since then, but we made it through homecoming week. That was an eventful week for me. I learned a lot. We added a new event, so we had a movie night out in front of the high school on Sunday night, and that was really well attended. I think the kids loved that. We had beautiful weather for that night, so that was fun. We tried something new with the HOCO homes with the toilet papering. While it wasn't perfect, I think it was definitely a step in the right direction, something that we can very much build on. But really, really pleased with how a vast majority of our kids handled the different activities throughout the week. This last month, we got to celebrate some of our students. We had our first student of the month. Owen Bertram was our student of the month at the high school. We recognized the middle school has something similar called Positive Potatoes, where they recognize the 6th, 7th, and 8th grader. Our 6th grader was Bo Savitz, our 7th grader was Bentley Burdett, and our 8th grader was Ryder Hamill. We got to recognize them for their positive contributions during the month of October or September. In terms of instructionally, we were having a lot of deep conversations. We're doing some data deep dives with our ELA department. We're looking at our data to see what is our data telling us that we need to work on, what do we need to improve, what changes do we need to make. Same thing with the math data. I'm really diving into that. We've begun having conversations with both the science and the math department to make sure that we're having the right pathway and setting our kids up to be successful beyond high school. So we're looking at what our current paths are through high school for both math and science, and we'll have more information on that. I think what I'm most excited about is some of our staffing gaps, filling holes, obviously pending tonight's board meeting, hopefully filling a position that is of need. And then also today, we had an interview for our IJAG position and had a good candidate today. So hopefully getting our IJAG position. Now there's an onboarding process with IJAG. Typically somebody obviously leaving a position has to give their work time, and then they have a very intensive training regimen that they do to bring their new staff in to be instructors in the IJAG. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit of a ways out, but hoping to fill that position also. Aside from that, I'm excited about the next month, see how things change and see what our new operational day looks like. Any questions for middle school, high school?
May I make a comment? I spoke to you earlier, but on Friday night, I saw something that spoke volumes to the rest of the staff when Derek walked out with one of the students for senior night as a stand-in parent. That was huge. So thank you. I think I think the rest of the staff watched and saw. That's what good leadership is. So.
Wishing that Elisha was still here because I just wanted to just really echo the great work that she has done starting our art program. And if you do have a chance to go to the art show, it's something that you can stop into just for a few minutes. But I think I had the mindset that I was going in to see student artwork displayed and touch base to show support for Elisha. And what I saw was a win-win for a business. I saw her being able to interact and really meet all of the families because she hasn't had that opportunity before. And students not just talking about an art product, but really about what artists do and the techniques behind that. So, for example, I was in her classroom today, and I have to be careful when I walk in because I'm going to end up there for a long time because I always want to finish whatever art project they're doing. But today I went to a second grade lesson and started off, our students can talk about famous artists. She was introducing one today to second grade students that uses all recycled materials, and then connected to what they were doing in social studies with communities, and then they were going out and creating a replica of or an inspired work from that artist out of recycled materials. But can sit and talk to you about artists, which I think is has been missing for us, so it's exciting to see for all of our students. We had a successful homecoming also, and I just think a thank you to the secondary building. They helped us create some really neat experiences for our students at the elementary, both for inviting one of our student clubs to be able to be a part of the parade, but also Reed Smith and Jeremy Britton really helped us set up a fun pep assembly that both our students and staff really enjoyed. So the kids really helped facilitate it. Our fifth grade students emceed the assembly, and then the high school kids made it seem like that was the most exciting part of their day, which created an amazing experience for our students too. Just kind of a list of like field trips and events that's happened or is happening this month. Our building participated in the Healthy Estate Walk, so all students and staff were able to go outside for 30 minutes and just walk and build on those relationships while enjoying time together. Preschool's going this week to the apple orchard to really connect to some of their science work they've been doing. Kindergarten went to Jester Park. Fourth grade did a social studies science piece at Swede Park. Fifth grade is going tomorrow. Michelle Cruz has kind of led this work, but thinking about our strategic plan with creating some unique experiences for students, she's collaborated with the DOT to take students, and they do not typically do this. They've done it with one other school before in the state, but they're going to do some things with maps, chemicals, and how that works to prepare surfaces for winter. So they have 4 or 5 different things that they're doing for the day that she really started working on this last year after some professional development and has made it happen in a short amount of time. So excited for our fifth grade students. Our students were able to participate in the elementary cheer clinic on Friday. So again, another experience that our high school cheerleaders came over and then took 90-some girls out on the track to perform. But they had a blast, and kids were still talking about that today. Audrey Rankin has kind of took the lead in planning our second trunk or treat that's coming up. And then Robin Postotnik is working through to create a family event during conference week around STEAM. So giving an opportunity for families to be able to engage in some activities together during conferences. So a lot of things that if you don't have a student at the elementary, you might not know all those things are going on. As far as professional learning, our building WIG, or our goal that we're working on, we have a theory this year that if staff engages in learning and implements practices with students around the science of reading, our students will become stronger readers, and really wanting to not only improve our proficiency levels in the area of reading, but ensuring that all of our students are growing wherever they enter. And so our teachers are spending a lot of their personal time and using some flex time engaging in that learning and through their PLC work. But we have our first 3-hour training on Wednesday around Unit 1. So some of the things they're working on is just why is reading difficult, the connection between language and literacy, skills that support proficient reading, major types of reading difficulties, how we can use assessment to kind of prevent some of those early interventions. But that's our first of 8 Wednesday trainings that our staff will engage in 3 hours of training. And then our last thing is just kind of our learning specialists. We have one at each building, have been engaging every couple of weeks with support from a staff member at AEA to really think about what a quality learning cycle looks like for our teachers, and just have been excited to see, since I'm primarily in the elementary, Amanda Bailey has really just taken off, and you can't find her oftentimes in the building because she's always in a classroom with teachers, either modeling a strategy or setting a goal. And they're really kind of fighting over her time, because once teachers know that they can grow with that support, they're really seeking her out to make a difference.
Any questions? Okay, great job. That was great. Consent agenda. Any
Yeah,
concerns?
honestly, I think you look at that consent agenda. We're excited about all the new people that will be joining us. I do want to draw attention to one specific name there. As you guys know, Martine Emmerich has applied for our math position. He had served the district for 2 years and went home to North Carolina, and quickly realized that when he got home, his home actually is here in Ogden. So pending you guys' approval tonight, he will be joining us actually on November 6th. So we're going to be having him come back and fill that much needed math position.
So Derek is fired from
Derek
Yeah, I
is,
thought
Front
happily.
just
Yeah.
from teaching algebra.
I think, yeah, we'll accept his resignation.
And the robotics kids are jacked.
Absolutely. So obviously there are a couple other recommendations for personnel, but I did want to just draw attention to Martine's name. But we're excited about all those other positions and those folks joining us as well.
Any questions about the consent agenda?
If there are none, I will move to approve it.
I'll second.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yep.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Van Sickle.
Very good. Action items. Allowable growth.
So with that, obviously you guys saw Melissa's report, but we had deficit spending in SPED, and whenever there's authority that we can grab, you try and do that. So we're simply asking for that authority. We need to make sure that we're providing FAPE, free appropriate education, but also meeting IDA for students. And really, it's whatever the IEP says, we need to make sure that we're providing those supports. With the weighting, sometimes that weighting is supposed to offset the cost of those, but sometimes they exceed what we anticipate. This last year was a good year for us, and those deficits was only in that $1,500 range, but I'm asking the board for that authority for that SPED deficit.
Any questions, comments?
I'll make the motion to authorize the district to request the $1,533.33 in allowable growth and supplemental aid.
Second.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yep.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Van Sickle.
Yes. Operational sharing agreement, sharing stipend.
Absolutely. So United Community School, a neighboring district, lost their SBO. And you guys can test tonight how important your SBO is for the well-being of an organization. And I think that you really look at how can we help a neighbor. And I think that this is an opportunity for a win-win-win. If you remember, the state of Iowa has certain positions that you can do operational sharing, and a school business officer is one of them. So in return, by sharing Melissa, pending your guys' approval, United gets a highly skilled qualified SBO for 1 day a week. Their goal is that United will find somebody and she can train them, and slowly that gradual release model of those responsibilities. So United gets operational share. They get a highly skilled SBO. We get operational share of 4 additional students. And the last win of that is Melissa gets compensated for her additional time. She's going to still have to balance all the things that she's doing in Ogden, as well as United. So I think overall, this is a 3-way win for everybody, pending your guys' approval.
And if you know anybody that wants to do one, they need one. Nobody has applied yet for it. So I've got a retired lady doing some interim stuff for the daily operations, assisting her with big picture, and a little more institutional knowledge on how United runs from the last time we did this. So I've been over once. I went last week.
Are you able to spend most of your time here and just do it all on the computer here? Or do you have to go on site?
It just depends. So like this week I won't go there because I'll be at a conference for the next 2 days. But depends on what her needs are. When they hire someone new, especially for the beginning piece, I'll be there 1 day a week to train, direct them, answer questions that they've encountered throughout the week. That's more of the goal and the idea of how this position ends up running. Right now, Jonna and I are just all hands on deck to make sure that they run and get people paid and reports all filed on time. So
not to get too private, you still live down that direction.
yeah.
And United is that more direction. Is there some form of compensation that we are compensating her for the extra travel?
We did not put in specifically a travel allowance in that portion. It was all in the compensation for the increase in her salary.
Okay. Any other questions?
With that being said, we have signed opinion you guys do this, what we are proposing is a sunset on this until June 30th. Depending on where United is, next year at July 1, it may be a possibility that they need continue this. And again, it would still be a win. We actually are making money as a district, even though we're increasing her salary. It's being offset by the additional students that we're getting. So that's always something that we could entertain should there be another contract on July 1.
Sure. Great. Any other questions, comments? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the sharing agreement with United for Melissa of $11,250.
Second.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Barrett,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Van Sickle.
Yes. Snow removal bids.
Snow removal bids came in last week. We actually received 3 bids. All 3 bids met the criteria that were outlined in the bid process. But with that being said, because they all met, we really ultimately went with the low bid. And the recommendation to you guys would be tonight to go with is Miller Industries. Is our snow removal for the 24-25 school year.
I have a question. Just looking at the chart, like the differences, and I don't know anything about machinery, but I noticed the Miller Industries one didn't have an end loader bid on that piece compared to the other 2. Is that something that's a problem for Roby?
We asked about that.
So the end loader is used to haul snow out of the property, and Billy's comment was the only reason you need to do that is when you don't pile the snow where you're supposed to. So we shouldn't need that because we did designate in the bid and in the maps where they were allowed to pile snow, and so we would just have to be absolutely hammered and have those designated spots fill up where there's nowhere else to pile snow. But if you pile snow where you're not supposed to.
I think it's a good point that you recognize that, and I do think it would be in 2 situations. A, they misplace it, as Melissa was indicating, and B, we get pounded and just get a ton of snow. But hopefully that first initial snow, we're pushing it back far enough in correct places that we can continue to add to it, and that would not be an applicable situation.
I'm sure a one-time thing, if we could get pounded, we could probably find somebody.
We would have to pay somebody that does have the capabilities to come.
Okay, I just noticed the difference.
Yep, that's a good note.
So this contract's just straight hourly?
No.
It is. So, Billy's thinking about, flat contract or hourly. Where was he?
So Billy and I talked about that as we wrote the bid documents, because we did have one of the bidders had asked for us to make it a flat rate. And our discussion around that was the person who asked would bill us a flat rate, but if we exceeded what he anticipated the hours being that went towards that flat rate, he was going to bill us over that. And so with the other two being newer to the industry, we said we want, because we're billed currently at an hourly rate. So we said, tell us how much per hour, because the variance is going to be how many hours. Well, that's going to be constant no matter who gets the bid. It's going to be, we want to know how much per hour the differences were. They did also include in their bid, we had them include how much to spread ice melt, but it's such a sporadic amount that we indicated that would not be used for determining a winning bid. It was just for us to know how much that would cost if they needed to do that. Yeah, just like, hey, just so we know what to expect, but we're not going to award the bid based on what your ice melt application cost is.
Any other questions?
I'll make that motion to approve Miller Industries for snow removal for this year.
Second.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yep.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Vincent.
Yes. Clothing and shoes textile recycling program.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. So Amy approached me a couple weeks ago and said that they had did some legwork to kind of look at how can we help support either the community as well as possibly support the elementary. So I'm sure that you guys kind of saw the information that was presented in your packet, but she kind of worked with Green Bins LLC. It's interesting, you don't notice something until it's actually brought to your attention, and then obviously once you see that, you see them all around. And it's crazy that I've actually drove around a little bit since a couple weeks ago, and you start to see it in all these different locations. But essence of the program is it's low maintenance, really limited that we need to do as a district, except for allow them a space to put the box. And in return, they will come. It has sensors inside of it when it will actually know that it's full, and then they come and actually take those materials and they're repurposing those textiles, etc. And then we get compensated at I think 7 cents a pound for that information or for those materials. So it cannot go into other funds. It would actually go into the general budget, but then earmarked specifically for the elementary. And the location that they have picked out would be on the northern end, so the preschool, the northern end, there's a couple of the garages there. I think it's an appropriate place, and I think you can see it in the picture. I think it looks really nice.
Any questions? Is there any indication of what kind of monies we're talking about?
I don't, Amy, do you know an idea on an estimate?
They said for their lowest performing that they have right now in a school, like a little bit smaller than ours, is about $120 a month. So it just kind of depends. There's others that are about $300, just depending on how. But as soon as it gets to a certain level, they come pick it up, and we're going to kind of keep it collaborated with our closet that we have in the basement. So having students and some families be able to get out things to still be able to use for families in the community. And then,
Sure. It's good. So a motion.
I move that we allow Green Bins LLC to put a bin over by the elementary school.
I will second.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Vincent.
Yes. Communications, delegations, and petitions. Noah? Finally, it's your turn.
Finally! Well, like you said, my name is Noah. I work with Community and Family Resources. I'm a prevention specialist. I serve Boone County. And the reason I'm coming here today is part of my grant given to this by the state is to help school districts like yourselves create a gambling policy. So in Iowa, about 90%, so 2.1 million of adult population reports gambling in their lifetime. The behavior and consequences of a gambling problem do not just affect the individual who gambles, but also affects other people in their lives. So in about one in 4 adult Iowans, so 505,000, report they have personally and negatively been affected by gambling behaviors of friends, co-workers, family members, or someone else they know. And for your staff, because they are working with students, it will also affect the students as well. And the effects of a gaming problem will almost always appear at work. The individual often spends increasing amounts of time involved in gambling, placing bets, and using their personal phone and devices at work. In some cases, a gambling problem leads to theft and crime in the workplace. So by creating a gambling policy, it reinforces your guys' commitment to fostering an environment where healthy, positive choices are the norm. And by removing gambling, you create a safe space for students and staff to focus on academics and personal development. Additionally, you will set a powerful example for other institutions and community at large. It demonstrates your dedication to creating a safe, supportive environment. And by implementing a no gambling policy, it's not just about prohibition, but it's about prioritizing the students' futures and the staff's well-being. I do have a sample policy if you guys are interested in wanting to take it. It also has my information to help craft it if you guys are interested in that. But yeah, that's all I have for you all.
Can we have documentation?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Haley.
I'm so excited. Thank you guys so much for approving the clothing bin. I had brought it to Amy because I'm one of the main people that does the clothing thing in the basement of the elementary school. And for an example, last year when we did our little kind of Christmas shop, I filled like a 10-foot enclosed trailer with everything that was left over. Some of it was toys as well, which won't be able to go into that, but we'll be able to fill this bin probably like, I don't know how big it is, but right now I think we're going to be able to fill like 2 of them the day that it shows up. I'm so excited for what this is going to do for us. So whenever people donate clothing to the school, in the past what we've done is it has come in, I get it all washed and cleaned, I go through it, decide, yes, this is great, no, this is not. Some of it is total trash, it's got holes, stains, whatever, so that goes straight into a bin that is, we're just going to put recycling on it, and I take that over to the Overflow Thrift Store in Ames or to Goodwill over there in Boone. And then the other bags are like, maybe this is perfect for somebody else, but it's not good for what we want. So every time that I take clothes from somebody, I'm driving all the way over to a different town to drop these off. And when I heard that this was a possibility, that we could potentially utilize it to get funds for the elementary school, I thought, let's do it. So thank you guys so much for that. I'm so excited.
Very good. Anything else?
No, I'm good. Thanks. Thank you guys.
It's our pleasure to make you happy.
Thanks. I'm so excited about it.
Public comment, board calendar. School board election, not this year. Oh, I want to go to the convention.
You want to go to the convention? I will register you. Yep.
Anybody else want to go?
When is it? November 21st.
It's the
Yeah,
Can't
probably
remember.
21st is a Thursday, isn't it?
Week
Yeah.
before Thanksgiving.
It was in my Friday report. I
think
don't have it memorized.
It's Thursday.
If it's
It
on
is a Wednesday, Thursday. I think they did pre-convention, and the convention would be the actual Thursday. But if you're interested, I'd join you. We can head down, and anybody else that wants to go for that matter, we'll register. We'll get you
Yeah, let me
somehow
know.
registered, and
Let me know when I can register
Let me
you.
double check. If it's Thursday, I wouldn't mind going. If it's Wednesday,
I think it, I was going to say I'm 100% sure, but I'm 90% sure it's on the Thursday.
Typically, the full convention is on Thursday,
Yeah.
and the pre-convention workshops are on Wednesday.
Derek's
Convention's on the 21st is what your board, or your
Okay. That's Thursday the 21st?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanksgiving's late this year.
It is very late.
That's why it never works.
You're buying.
Just let us know if anybody else is interested in going to the convention. We'll work probably in the next week or two to get you signed up for early registration, if you're able to do that.
Okie dokie. Superintendent report.
Absolutely. I actually have a number of things tonight. Here. So, October 15th is actually a really important day for school. So, certified enrollment is due tomorrow. We actually hit submit on the report a little bit ago today. I had spoken to the board a little bit and said that we we're going to be slightly down, but I felt like we were going to be in pretty good shape. After kind of looking at the numbers a little bit more, we are going to be down this year. So I just want to talk a little bit more about that and why I anticipate that we are going to be down. I gave you guys a screenshot of the certified enrollment 2024. And this is really looking at last year's. So we have the previous column and then the current, and then it gives you the delta or the change. And then I tried to highlight line 1, 2, 3, and 4 in no particular order, just as a reference point, so that as I'm mentioning something, it will draw your eyes to that certain location. Overall, I guess let's start with line number 1. And this is our resident students, our open enrolled students, homeschool assistants. It is everything put all together. And if you look at last year, we were at 724.27. And you ask, well, how can we be at 0.27 of a kid? It goes to the weightings of our students, as with that information. Versus this year, we're at 692.3, so we're down 32 students overall. The thing that I think that's interesting is that you look at our line 2, we get 0.5 for our 4-year-old preschool program. So 0.5 of a student. Last year we were at 18, this year we're at 23. So that's a difference of 5, but actually we're up 10 4-year-olds. So that's a good thing. That's a good indicator for our future success because hopefully those 4-year-olds then become kindergartners. The next line up, line 3, if you actually look at our non-resident public student enrollment, so that's our open enrollment. Last year we were at 74. This year we're at 174. This year we're at 182. Our open enrollment is up 8 kids. So how can we be down 32? Our 4-year-old program is up, and our open enrollment is up. If I want to draw your attention there to line 4, and that's resident public student attending the district. Last year we were at 550. This year we're at 509. So our resident students dropped 40 students. I drew some numbers down below, and I think it's important that we want to make sure that the students that walk across the stage are hopefully next year when they enter into kindergarten, we almost need that to be a wash. So everybody, almost like a bouncer, if you will. As you walk out, we need one person in. We had a graduating class of 60 last year, and our kindergarten this year is 47. So when you look at, we're down 32 kids, right off the top, you can take 13 to start to figure out why are we down. So that 32, take 13, my math tells me that's negative 19. On the far left, we had 45 students leave Ogden from October 2nd of 2023 to until certified enrollment of October 1st, 2024. So we have transient students. I looked at that 45 would equate to about 6 or 7% of students that are transient. They start here, maybe all of a sudden they don't even finish here. These weren't necessarily moves that happened June, July, and August, with a lot of families would indicate. The open enrollment law changed this year, and they started to put back in place due dates or that move. We saw students say, I want to try Ogden. And maybe they were here last year at Count, but for whatever reason, they weren't happy with what was going on here and they were going to go somewhere else. So they might open enroll to another place or whatever it might be. I think the fact that they have these due dates in place now will help us identify firmly what our numbers are moving forward. And then we did have 28 students come in. So if you take the 45 out versus the 28 that came in, that's a difference of 17. Well, I said we were negative 19. You take that 17 right there. That really starts to identify between our kindergarten and high school graduation versus the transient students leaving versus the transient students that came in. We're really at a negative 2. So I'm not sure why we had 45 leave out. We looked at it. We actually had some families, really honestly, 3 families that had multiple students, and I think they have new housing. One went to Dallas Center Grimes, one went to Nevada. I think one moved to Boone, and then we had one family choose to go homeschool. So quickly you go with 4 families, it starts to count up for 18, 19 kids because they had so many kids in those families. So whenever you drop 32, it brings a little bit of a concern. Honestly, our revenue that we generate is based off of students that their rears are in the seats. So I think this is something that we need to be cognizant of. The good thing is we are in a good financial position, but I think that we are going to have to pivot a little bit and just be cognizant. While we are in good financial position, we did drop 32 students this year. Which I asked Melissa. Well, honestly, I didn't really ask her. She just did this because that's what she does. But she went ahead and did some initial projections. And again, we're going to have to look at these things that are going on and make informed decisions moving forward. But what you see in front of you would be up top is our budget enrollment. And you guys can see that we went from 590 to 550. It's interesting because your budget enrollment is based off of your resident students. We know are served, but that would be tuition and those types of things. But what she did is she went in and just said, hey, we're at 550 moving forward for the next 4 years. What's going to happen to our UAB? And I was nervous, and I kind of drew a line on there that I thought that the floor was going to drop. And it does decrease, which is actually a thing that we want. We need our UAB to get in that 15 to 20%. I was fearful that it was going to drop 6, 7, 8% quickly. And it does decrease over time that we're going to have to course correct. And I think those course corrections can happen subtly. I think there are some things that we're even talking about that we can make subtle changes. But I think that the message that I'm wanting you guys to know is yes, we are down 32 kids, and yes, the sky is not falling. We're going to be okay. What questions do you have with that first portion of the superintendent report regarding certified enrollment and just some initial numbers based off of that? We've looked just to kind of, I was anticipating maybe somebody would ask this question. So what is our senior graduating classes the next couple years? This year, I think we're at 55, 56 kids that is in our senior class. And we have 46 kids in fourth grade or in 4-year-old preschool. So Brenda and Amy would probably be able to tell us, but I've always thought I heard that whatever our 4-year-old preschool is, add 5 to 10 more kids on there, and that's a pretty accurate representation. So I think this next year, whatever exit our system is going to be about what enters back in next year. I will tell you, our junior class is a big class. We have around 68 kids in there, and the likelihood of us getting 68 kindergartners in 2 years is pretty unlikely. But if you look at our enrollment from 10th grade all the way down into kindergarten, we're in that 45 to 55 range. There is not a bubble class, and I think that honestly, if we can get through these next couple of years, our numbers are going to be pretty consistent of who's leaving versus who's coming in. And I think that we've done some pretty good things about why Ogden. I think we're marketing our district. I think the legacy is doing some things, and we're going to try and continue to say we need resident students in our district to continue with our. But I think we're going to be okay if we can get through the next few years. Okay. If there's no questions with that, just safety and radios. I always give a monthly update on our safety. Today, I just want to give an update that you guys approved some digital radios and the good thing is there was a big lag, but they're now here. They're getting programmed. We're hoping to get those in the hands of our leaders, and I think that's really going to help with just our overall communication across the district. So we're really excited to get those here pretty timely here. On September 10th, I actually had a facility subcommittee, and Pete, if you guys want to talk anything about that, I'll initiate the conversation. But if there's anything that you guys want to add, ultimately, if you guys remember, last year we had somebody come in and do a facilities assessment. So really, the analogy that I've looked is that I gave them a chance to look underneath the hood of the car, really to analyze where are we at, and there were some things that came up with that in April. That company came and really presented that information. And I don't want that just to die with, okay, we've looked under the hood and we've accepted that there's some repairs that need to be done. So the next conversation that I'm really having is so what can we do that we are fiscally responsible for our patrons, that we're providing the very best environment and space for our teachers and for our students, and that we don't neglect something, because if you neglect something, then all of a sudden it becomes an issue long term. So it's just this balancing, and really, I think the thing that I asked the facility subcommittee, and that I will be hopefully bringing more information to the board to discuss in November, is what does facility master planning look like? We've looked underneath the hood of the car. What does our planning look like for the future to really say, how are we going to address the issues, and more importantly, what phases or when are we going to address those issues moving forward? So I've had some initial conversation with a reputable architect that the district has used in the past. That is FRK. They come highly regarded, and they also did some really nice work with our district in the past. So they're actually working on a proposal to really give us more information about what does a facilities master plan look like, and some initial costs. I don't have that information tonight, but just to kind of give you guys some information about what we talked about in subcommittee, and then what I'm hoping to do in the future in November and December, present some information and hopefully get your guys' support to move forward with some things.
So that's just starting the process of just the plan. It has nothing, well, it's going to lead to construction, but right now you're just looking at the plan.
Correct. And with that, the plan, it is more conceptual plans. It is addressing the needs. It is getting stakeholders' input. And it would not be construction, print, ready drawings by any means. It is just more high level, looking at what are the needs of the district. How are we going to address the things that are underneath the hood of the car that need to be repaired? Where do we want the programs to be in the future? And then they will ultimately give us a proposal on how we improve those facilities. They did a quick walk, and I want to recognize that they are architects that work with public education, and they are in schools all the time. And they said our facilities are in pretty good shape, and they really wanted to recognize our custodial staff. They said that they walk around schools all the time, and there's dust bunnies, cobwebs, messes all over. And they just said, you can tell that Ogden has taken pride in their facilities, and they look really nice. And then they also were like, oh, and you have mini split. You know, I'm just an example of there's opportunities for us to improve.
Matt, do you remember working with them in the past, or what that would have been? I think that was before I got.
That was the conversion of the cafeteria pool to a cafeteria.
Yep.
And the elementary, the new middle school, they did
Yes.
that. And that was in our committee meeting. That was kind of our the direction we thought the district should go, was with a architecture firm that has a good track record in the district, and we thought that would be a really nice place to start.
They're based
They're in Urbandale. Yes.
I think they did the remodel of the art room. I think so too.
And then I did want to just circle back. During Amy's report, she said that they had a theory of action and really working on the science of reading. Specifically, that program is called Letters, and I want to acknowledge Amy for writing a grant. So that is significant cost to put our teachers through. And what do we have? 25 teachers? The state of Iowa actually sent out and said, the science of reading is critical foundation for the well-being and success of students. So they actually earmarked millions of dollars, but it wasn't just you received the dollars, you actually had to complete the application process. And if we would not have completed that application and received the grant, you can think about, I'm going to say $2,500 to send somebody to this training. And, you know, we have 25 teachers. We have all of our teachers invested in doing that. The state of Iowa thank you for that, but also it doesn't just happen. It required somebody to actually have the foresight to actually fill out the application and get that. So I'm excited about the work that they are doing right now, and I think that's going to be critical for our success moving forward. That is all I had in the superintendent's reports, unless there's any questions.
Okay. I got a comment and then maybe a question. So about a month ago, I was made aware of an upcoming musical that the students will be putting on next month. And when I asked the name, I was said Urineville. And I said, could you spell that for me, please? Because I thought I didn't hear it quite right. I didn't say anything, and I went home, and of course I researched it. I thought, well, maybe it's just kind of an oddball name. But whenever I researched it a little bit and discovered what the musical was about, the title doesn't quite cover all of it. So let me just read a quick synopsis of one little scene, just to give you a flavor so you're not thinking, well, Earl, you're overreacting. So, with the town finally at peace, the age of fear is over, and the people look forward to a bright new day. And the Urine Good Company is renamed the Bobby Strong Memorial Toilet Authority, and the people are henceforth allowed to pee whenever they like, as much as they like, for as long as they like, and with whomever they like, all at the song of I See a River. So, in light of getting this report of students opting out, I don't need to know as a board member. I just think I don't need to know why or how this, came about. But I think as a board, we need some assurance to say, that ain't going to happen again. I realize, all the copy stuff and the kids have, what do? Try out and everything's in motion. So we're kind of stuck with this. But maybe the question, is there some kind of system in place that for the future, I don't want to come around in next spring and discover there's going to be a play called Poop City or something, I don't want to, some assurances from, that we can, because I got to go out and I go to church and I see these old ladies and they go, what the heck is going on over at the school? Because maybe that's that's edgy, but that's really edgy for us old people. Maybe it ain't quite as edgy as for the 30-something. So, I mean, we want a culture here that's wholesome, that is not edgy, and so my question then to you is there some system in place for the future?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll answer that by, I will get to it. Okay. And I guess I want to start by letting you know and the board to know and publicly to know that I believe the activities are a cornerstone for our success. I want our kids to participate in musics, the arts, the sports, and that is critical. We need our kids involved in that because the skills and the experiences that they're going to walk away with are paramount and going to set them off for success. And I think that we need to make sure that when we do those, it aligns to the core values of the district. In this situation, I think that I failed to ask the right questions. And maybe something went through that maybe shouldn't have. But honestly, by the time that it was brought to my attention, it would have been more detrimental to our students and the success of the program to really course correct at that point. The name is off-putting, but I can tell you that I think that our kids, and I'm confident they're going to gain a lot of experience. They're going to have fun in this situation. Mr. Miller has been great to work with in this situation, and this is not him. I failed to ask the right questions. And in light of that, he is actually taking this as an opportunity to bring attention to water conservation, and they're going to really try and do some fundraising, some good out of this. So I understand your concern, Earl. I recognize it, and there's going to be things that we do as far as asking appropriate questions and getting some safeguards in place so that we can vet that, make sure that it aligns with the core values moving forward.
And I just want to be on record, because I just felt like, wow. Because if that comes to the public, and when they start promoting and that goes out, something's gonna hit the fan there, that's gonna be that you're gonna get a lot of blowback. We won't.
Sure.
Well, we will get some.
Yep, and I'm aware of that.
Yeah, so.
I appreciate it. Hopefully I was able to answer your question.
No, wonderful.
The
Thank
way
you. Yeah.
we're gonna move forward.
You bet. I agree.
Any other questions or comments? So at this point, we need to go into closed session, still staying.
Yep.
Right? So, thank you everyone. Can we take a little restroom break? I could use one. And then are we doing Melissa first?
We'll do Melissa, and then when she's done, you guys come get me, and I'll go.
And you'll be
office.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. I actually would have missed that.
Oh yeah, we're in closed session, but